Hi, are you intrigued by the idea of pursuing law as a career but unsure if it's right path for you? Look no further as we introduce LSAT India, the key to unlocking your potential to the legal world. Developed specifically for law colleges in India and test the skills that are crucial for success in both law schools and the legal practice. In this video, get ready to unlock valuable insight from esteemed expert at BMN Munjal as they throw some light on essential skills tested by LSAT India, crucial in excelling law colleges and legal professions. So watch full video and don't miss the opportunity to understand more about law in this video, and let us know if you have any query, any doubts. You can mention your doubts in the chat box. Thank you.
So, a very good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Nancy, and I'm a student mentor here at Hitbullseye. Hitbullseye is known for its innovation in the education industry. You all are welcome here to this live interaction today on the topic LSAT India, Application to an Advocate, how to know that law is for you. At Hitbullseye, we keep doing these enlightening sessions to help our students shape their career pathway. Let me welcome our esteemed guest and expert, Dr. Preetham. Sir is a professor and dean of the School of Law. He researches and teaches in the areas of legal philosophy, constitutional law, constitutional theory, and philosophical foundations of the tort law. Professor has studied law at NALSA, Oxford University, and the University College of London. He was awarded the Felix Scholarship at Oxford University and the Commonwealth Scholarship for his PhD. In his academic career, Professor Preetham has taught at top universities in Canada, UK, China, and Germany. I extend a very warm welcome to you, sir, on behalf of Hitbullseye. Thank you for joining us. Without any further ado, I would like to hand over the session to you.
Thank you very much. And it's indeed a pleasure to be a part of this session. And I can see students, perhaps parents, will be joining in. So let me start by giving an example of two kinds of students who took up law and two different stories, that they put before us. So one of them is a student of mine who was at Kolkata, at NUJS Kolkata, who finished the 5-year course and then went on to do a master's at Oxford, worked in one of the top law firms, and then went on to join the civil services. He was working in a law firm in London, but he came back to India and started, he joined the civil services as an IRS officer and later on moved on to the IPS and is very happy in doing that. But that student, his name is Mr. Harsh Poddar, who is a commissioner level IPS officer now. He knew right from day one that he wanted to do law. And he had the benefit of that because of seniors from school, etc., had told him about it. And he was very clear from the beginning that he wanted to be a lawyer. But look at how he ended up. He did law all through, practiced as a lawyer, but at the end went on to do something completely different. Even if, as a police officer, your knowledge of law is of immense help to you. The second student, his name was Satya Narayan, and they were in the same university. For the first 2 years, in all his subjects, he got very poor marks. And in the third year, he was in my subject and he got an outstanding grade. And the question was then taken up as to how was he almost failing in all the other subjects, but was doing very well in this one subject. And then, of course, the answer scripts were examined by experts and they said that the student is actually brilliant. But in all the other subjects, the student was faring very poorly. And this was a very talented student who was a state level cricket player. And then we found out, and I had a long chat with him. At that time, I was the warden of their hostel, so I had a personal relationship with them. I spoke to him for a long time and realized that his interest was not in the law. His interest was more in social sciences, literary thinking, and that's what he wanted to be. So in the third year of law school, he left law school. He lost 3 precious years, but then he, in the end, ended up doing what he liked and went to the US, did a PhD, and now works in one of the major international think tanks in India, based in Mumbai. So you see that it is very important for us to know when we enter a long course like law, which is a 5-year law course, of whether the law is for us. And that is the topic of today's webinar. And you see the major topic is from LSAT India application to advocate, because that's the journey. If you're writing the LSAT exam, then you go to a law school after that, and then you ultimately become an advocate. And after that, you can do whatever you want, whichever career you want to pursue. But be very mindful of this, that how do you get to know that the law is for you? And one of the most important ways of knowing that is how you do in your entrance procedure. And that is why several top universities in the country have joined hands with LSAT India, because we have the confidence that if you take an exam like this, then through the scores, we are able to assess whether you are a person who is, in a way, has the potential and the aptitude and the interest to take up a law course, or whether you are someone who is actually made for great things, but perhaps not in law. And that is why the LSAT India exam is something that all of us, partner with. And I'll tell you why through the components. Now, before I do that, I want to share a presentation so that you can also understand through, perhaps my own journey of how you know that the law is important for you. So just give me a moment. I'm going to upload my presentation. 1 second, please. So is this visible? Can someone, Nancy, can you tell me if that is visible?
Yes, sir, it is.
It is, sir.
All right. Excellent. So we also have these, DNA strands. You may even think of them as space-time wavelengths, for the reason that we want to really get into this thing, that whether the law is for you. So I want to start with my journey. When I was in class 12, actually, I didn't want to do law. I wanted to do either philosophy or political science. But I was told by several people that in 1990s India, you will end up being an angry young man like Nana Patekar in the movie Ankush. If you have watched it, you should watch it. An unemployed youth who ends up murdering a corrupt politician. And everyone advised me that you should take up something related to the social sciences, which gives you an independent profession. And then at that time, there were no All India entrance exams, and I went to Nalsar University of Law, wrote the exam there, and I got through. And this is our classroom in Nalsar University of Law. And in these 5 years, life really changed for me. One, I realized that there are some parts of the law which I am made for, and I should be looking at those areas. But how did that happen? That's because there were, at that point of time, I think 2 or 3 good teachers who actually shaped our careers. And at the end of these 5 years, I wanted to go to court, but I was advised to go for higher education. So I went to this place. This is Oxford University, Exeter College. It is one of the oldest colleges in Oxford. From outside, if you look at the college, there's a door you can see there. From outside, it looks like a small shop. The moment you enter, you have this grand vista. So Nalsar was 3 years old. This place was 800 years old. And it challenged several of my intuitions, both these places, and taught me of how to think about the law, how to think about my own role in this vast realm called law. And after Oxford, I went to this place, which is University College London, which came up in opposition to universities like Oxford, because Oxford was a very religious institution when it started off. It was mostly a Christian missionary. They set up those colleges long time back, the top of #1 university in the world. This was more of a scientific bent, and it came in much later. So why I showed you these pictures is that when I was in the small town called Shillong in Meghalaya, I never thought that I could go to places like this. My vision was, not as wide as my experience ended up being. And I think that the major difference was my entry into law school, because law as a career option really opens up the world for you. And one part of our presentation today will also be on the modern career options in law. That's because all of us think that if you're a lawyer, you wear your black coat and you wear your gown and your bow tie, and in the beginning maybe you're sitting outside the courtroom waiting for clients, and later on you get admitted and you get cases and it's a struggle. That's not the case at all. 95% of the law graduates from good universities actually end up getting very stable, secure jobs in law firms or big corporate houses with the government or with public sector banks, international organizations. So the world has really changed. You don't have to be the children of someone who comes from an illustrious law family to do well in law. But here is my story from no background in law, from a small town in Meghalaya, went to all these places, and then now back in India in the field of education. And we want to really tell you of how this legal education can be worthwhile for you. Now, here is I think the most important slide for today's presentation. How do you know that the law is for you? And if the entrance exams, and they are the major thing which actually prepare you for law school before you enter one, if the entrance exams teach what or test what is important to be a successful lawyer, then you know that through your entrance exam scores, you not only look at admission, it is not success or failure. It is actually a test of what is your own potential, what is your own interest. Now, someone had found it very funny, Bosco, I think. Can you share the joke if you want? We would all like to have a good laugh. No? Okay. All right. So I'll continue. So you should look for, these on the right-hand side you see are four things I have listed out, which are important for your, a career in law to be successful. So the most important one is whether you like being analytical, being logical, and reasoning, about things, about complex factual situations in the world, not in an emotional, not in a very political, not in a very moral way, but in an analytical and logical way. What does this mean? So it means these few things. Some of them I've written here. So usually, as a lawyer, you will find that somebody brings a factual scenario to you. Oh, this happened to me. And let's work with an example. It is easy. So for example, a few days back, I think 3 days back, 5 judges of the Supreme Court gave a decision on a tussle between the government of Delhi and the union government, the central government. And what were the facts which are brought to the lawyers? The facts which were brought to the lawyers were, there are all these officers in the Delhi government. They deal with electricity, water, road, etc., and law and order, police, land, everything. So these officers, the government of Delhi said, because they are government of Delhi officers, we should have the power to transfer them, to post them, to reward them, to punish them, to set their job profile. We are the ones who should be able to do it. And the central government said, no, Delhi is the capital of the country, and all our important people from all over the country are in Delhi. So it is nobody's Delhi, it is the country's Delhi. So we need to have control over all these officers who work in Delhi. This was the factual matrix which was presented to the court. And in the next slide, we'll discuss how the court used some kind of analytical reasoning to break it down into things which are non-political. Well, everybody else in the news and in YouTube and newspapers were saying Aam Aadmi Party versus BJP. That is what they were showing. But the court did not look at any of those political things. What it did was, number one, the first point under analytical reasoning, comprehension. Comprehension is the idea that you look at a factual matrix and then you try and find out by thinking logically what is relevant and what is not relevant in this wide factual matrix, right? And comprehension requires that you are able to read well, you take out, the logical elements, what are the things that are going on that are related to each other within that set of facts, and you separate the relevant from the irrelevant, which is very important as a lawyer, right? People will tell you all their life stories when they come to a lawyer, or even to a doctor. When people go, they tell all their life stories of what is happening, how many problems it's causing. The doctor or the lawyer will take out what is the relevant medical or what is the relevant legal information, and then apply the relevant body of knowledge to it by looking at what are the principles. You'll see after relevant information, we have written principles. What are the principles which will govern this case? Once you identify the principle, then you will enter into some kind of logical, analysis, which is mostly deduction. In the case of law, there are both induction, deduction, but in exams, when you write, it is mostly deduction. That there is a principle. What is the answer that the principle requires? Or the next is that you will look at relationships. You will look at, if there are two paragraphs, you'll try and draw the similarities between them, the differences between them, and then try to give an answer. So any lawyer is required to have analytical reasoning as the most important skill set in their kitty when they become lawyers. The second is that you must have very good communication skills. So not before coming to law school. Before coming to law school, you should just have the threshold that you are able to read well, you are able to write reasonably well, because all these things are taught in law school. But these two are very important. Now, any entrance exam which tests analytical reasoning and communication is a good entrance exam. And that is why universities like us, who have world-class faculty, we want students who have analytical reasoning and communication skills, and not just the ability to spit out information. So you will find that a number of exams will have general knowledge, legal reasoning as part of their components. But we are not interested in general knowledge too much, because we don't expect the relevant knowledge for the law to be learned right in advance. And second, we expect that those who are going to pass these exams will have enough general knowledge to navigate the world. Otherwise, you won't have been able to pass class 12. The next is that you should have some communication skills so that you can communicate with others. So these are things that a entrance exams should test. And we are very happy, and that's why we partner with LSAT India, that LSAT India actually has these 4 parts, which are only about these things. It is only about analytical reasoning, logical reasoning, and communication comprehension. These are the things that are tested. So an exam which tests that, I think, is a relevant exam. And it is not only an indicator to the good law schools, but it is also an indicator to you as to whether the law is for you. So I would encourage all of you that try and take an exam which has these components in it. It will tell the universities that here is a student who has the potential to do law. It will tell you that this is the kind of thing that I need to be able to do in order to be a lawyer. If I'm doing it well, I have to go in there. If you're thinking that, oh, maybe I should become an architect, or I should become, a pilot, or I should become a lawyer, and you're deciding amongst these. But if you realize that you do well in analytical reasoning, comprehension, communication, then most probably the law is for you, and that is a career you should opt for. So now, quickly, there are 2 others which I have written here, and these are not applicable to entrance exams, but these are applicable to you being a lawyer. So one is social sensitivity, that a lawyer is someone who deals with everything in the world, right from, let's say, the political case I was discussing, to your relationship with others in your school, to the relationship with your parents and your siblings, your relationship with the plants that are around you, the pets that might be in your house, or the animals that are roaming in the streets, the air that you breathe, the water that you drink. There is a law for all of them. And you have rights and duties about all these things because there is a law which governs it. So the law is actually a life in itself. And if you are good at understanding how logical principles should apply to different areas of life, then the law is for you. And for that, you have to be a socially sensitive person. You should be able to understand the viewpoint of other people who disagree with you. Why? Because when you stand in court to argue a case, right now, controversial case going on in the Supreme Court, same-sex marriage case, both sides have to deal with people who completely do not believe in their worldview. But they have to go and argue before a court of law. No matter what their culture, what their religion, what their traditions are, they have to argue on some common principles which are in the Constitution of India. So the ability to see others' points of view, to understand all of that, and to make an argument with courage and confidence are essential traits of a lawyer. You'll often see that most of our leaders during the independence movement, they were lawyers. Most of the important philosophers in the world, like you may say Immanuel Kant or Karl Marx or Cicero, all of them had law degrees, because there is a strong relationship between social problems and the law, and between law and everything else in society, right? So if you have questions, please feel free to ask, whenever. You can write in the chat box. or if people can speak, then you can raise your hands, but feel free to ask your questions. We will answer them towards the end. Now, this is about the law. Now, let me go to the next one. So let's take this example which I gave you, right, about the Delhi government and the Delhi government and the union government. There was this tussle. So what did the court do? The court did not look at that the Delhi government is Aam Aadmi Party or the union government is Bharatiya Janata Party. It did not look at it. It looked at this, that what is Delhi? Delhi is not a state. Delhi is not a union territory. Delhi is the national capital territory. And there is an article in the constitution which talks about the national capital territory. And the court looks at that article in the constitution. And then it asks this question, oh, why was this article put in? Why does Delhi have its own legislative assembly? Why is there a lieutenant governor in Delhi and not some other just, governor which is there in all the other states? Because Delhi has a special character. And the court says that what are the principles on the basis of which we should decide this issue, right? Where people are claiming that there are two sets of government. One government is claiming power that these are under my power. The other is also claiming power. So the court first identifies the principle of federalism, right? Then it looks at the other question. Why is it the case that in India we have two sorts, governments? There is Delhi government and there is a union government. Now there's elections that took place. There will be a new government in Karnataka. So why is there this division of governments? Countries like China, they mostly have strong central government. They are economically, in defense, etc., doing very well. In other things, not doing very well. In some things, doing very well. They are very efficient. Why do we have these two sets? Then the court looks at this idea that the principle of federalism is closely tied to the principle of democracy. Democracy is closely tied to the principle of self-determination, that as Indian citizens, we decide for ourselves. Nobody, for example, the British used to tell us earlier that this is what you ought to do, right? Nobody is going to tell the citizen what they do unless they have very good reasons based on our constitution. And that is why the principle of democracy requires federalism, that let's say you are all from different parts of the country. Today, there is a cyclone coming, Cyclone Mocha, which is mostly in Bangladesh. And other countries nearby, Thailand, Burma, Myanmar, etc., will be affected. But let's say it was affecting the state of West Bengal. Now, what kind of relief measures, what kind of money should be spent, how should the government evacuate these people? That decision is best known by the people of that part, not by a government perhaps which is sitting in Punjab or Gujarat or Bihar who are going to decide for them. So things that matter to some people should be decided by them is the principle of federalism. And it is related to democracy because people choose their own government, say they are best for us to govern, right? That's the kind of logic. And therefore, the Supreme Court went on to say that all these officers who deal with water, electricity, roads, sanitation, etc., all of them will be under the Delhi government because they serve the people of Delhi, and the people of Delhi have elected this government who should have power. At the same time, it said that Delhi is the national capital territory. So certain things like law and order, public order in Delhi must be with the central government because there are people, members of parliament, courts, judges, people from all over the country who are staying there. So law and order is actually a national question in Delhi. The central government will have it. And the third is land, because large part of the land in Delhi is owned not only by the Delhi government, but also by the central government and also by many state governments, also by several institutions like the army, central forces, etc. And therefore, land should be with the central government because the only stakeholder is not the people of Delhi, but the people of the country, right? So no political issues there, not too many moral issues there, but some principles on the basis of which our constitution has been designed. By comprehending these facts, drawing out the two important principles, deducing that what these principles require, and drawing relationships between what is the state government, what is the central government, what is the national capital territory, what is a panchayat government, the court came to this logic. So you should therefore be very clear. I'm not talking only about entrance exams. I'm talking about a life in law. A life in law is about being able to distance yourself from your immediate feelings and to think logically, despite having perhaps different moral beliefs about that. Perhaps you might want to have to change your moral beliefs. You might be convinced. That kind of an attitude is important, right? And what is at the core of this idea? The core of this idea is about actually thinking about justice logically. And you see the diagram on the right-hand side. You'll see the people on the right-hand side of the wall, they are all black, brown, blue, orange. They are thin, fat, tall, short, able, disabled, of different genders. They're all there. And in the line in between is called a veil of ignorance, in the sense that if you are a judge or even a politician, you should actually sometimes forget about all this. What color, what community, what caste, what religion, what ability, disability, gender is sometimes not relevant. Rather, we have to look at all human beings as morally equal people and decide a question of justice on that. And that is why several controversial questions will come up when you take up a law course. For example, obvious things like, should the government tax your income? Should consensual cannibalism be allowed? For example, if and it has happened, I write on the internet that, oh, I want somebody to eat me, and somebody else, oh, I want to eat you, and you get together, and I kill myself. I won't be caught for suicide because I'm dead, but the other person then eats me. Now, should that be allowed, not allowed? What about hate speech? Do we have so much freedom of speech and expression that we can say anything about other people, about other communities? And the question, big questions, that what is equality, what is justice? These are words we all love. We shout on the streets, we want justice. But if we ask them, what is justice? You'll often find that 90% of the people will find it difficult to answer. Rather, they'll say that justice is just the right thing to do. But there's a structured way of thinking about each of them, which a legal education provides to you, right? That is why you will feel, the students here, that if you spend 3 years in the law school and you go back to your friends, who are not lawyers, and there is a discussion amongst all of you about some controversial issue. After some time, out of frustration, the other says, we don't understand what you lawyers are saying. But then it is your responsibility to make others also understand. Why? Because lawyers use their own language, etc., to logically structure the world. And people find it difficult to argue with them because the lawyers have thought about these things in a very analytical, logical manner. And other kinds of arguments usually can't stand test of a strong analytical, logical argument, right? Okay. So I have put up some pictures also of our law school, but the most important thing, once you enter law school, after you have given an exam, let's say whichever exam you have given, there is also a lot of unlearning. And the unlearning starts from the moment you write the entrance exam, because the entrance exam itself will ask you a set of questions, like in the LSAT exam, logical reasoning, where you have to forget about all the information you have gathered or all your moral beliefs you already have. You have to keep them aside and just look at the fact situation given in front of you. So large part of it is first unlearning and then learning how to deal with it through the law, right? And what happens in law school? Someone's putting nice designs on my slides. That's very nice. Thank you for that. One was in red, one in green. No problem. So here, what happens in law school? In year 1, we call it understanding the world, where the clients come from. So whether if you are doing a BA LLB or a BBA LLB, or let's say BCom LLB, you study 3 subjects, which are from BA, BBA, and 2 other subjects, which are actually core law courses, like torts or contracts. Why do we say you're understanding the world? Because you are studying subjects which are related to the world, not directly to the law, and law subjects together. And you will be able to then see how the demands of the society and the responses of the law compare to each other. It's an interdisciplinary approach started by Mr. Professor Madhav Menon, who started National Law School, Bangalore, this 5-year course, integrated course, where it is important to understand where people are coming from, and therefore you must do an undergraduate apart from law, which is BA or BBA, BCom, whichever it is, and then take up studies of law. Even your internships in the beginning are to be with organizations and not directly with lawyers, because lawyers, you wouldn't have studied as many law subjects which are needed for a law internship. So you intern with mostly NGOs or government departments, or you may work with people who are working in the social sector to understand the world and how the law applies them. In year 2, you start slowly stepping into the world made by law, where the world is in the rear view, in the sense that the law actually creates its own concepts, like basic structure doctrine, battered woman syndrome, intellectual property rights, companies, trusts. These are things that you usually don't find in the world. These are creations of the law. And so you start understanding these creations of the law in the 2nd and 3rd year. Slowly, you move away from the social science and management subjects to, mostly law subjects. And in the fourth year, you do only law subjects where you know to live in this artifact. We call it artifact because law is something made by human beings. All our legislations, our decisions by courts are made by human beings. So you learn mostly law subjects in your fourth and fifth years. But in the fifth year, we also start preparing you for the world ahead, right? Which is that your internships are now geared more towards the kind of job that you want to do. If you want to be in a corporate law firm, you'll do corporate law internships. If you want to be in-house counsel, you'll working with banks, PSUs, and companies. If you are wanting to be a litigating lawyer, then you work with somebody in the chambers of someone who only goes to court. So that kind of practice, or concretizing of what you want to do really starts shaping from the fourth year, but in the fifth year, you're mostly doing that, right? One question which everybody has is about internships and clerkships. What are they? So the Bar Council of India mandates that you must do at least 5 internships in your 5-year course. No internship can be longer than 4 weeks. But most of the good law schools, they provide you around 10 internships. So you meet the minimum, but you do double the amount so that you get experiential learning by going and working with people who are working in the field of law. Those are called internships. Clerkships are when you work with judges, high court judges, trial court judges, Supreme Court judges. They're called judicial clerkships. They're a bit different from internships, but these are a must while you take up a law course. So in the first year, your internships are again about knowing the world and how law matters, so mostly with organizations. In the second year, you bridge the legal and the non-legal, where you start looking at when people take their issues to the court in a legal way, how do they take it? So you go to trial courts, you go to high courts, you have to go and see these forums and understand what life is like in these forums, what the procedures are. In the third year, you have to know the courts very well and other legal service providers, which are law firms and other corporate houses, government legal departments. So in the third year, you are free to do any of those internships. And fourth and fifth years, you mostly do internships towards the kind of employment you want at the end of your law course, right? And I'll give you some examples of professions in law that you can pursue. I have put up a lady lawyer here, Karuna Nandi's photo. You might see her often in TV, is one of the reasons I have put it here. But also because many people think that the law is not a profession for women, and which is a completely misguided idea now. There is enough space for women in law, especially in corporate law practice. A lot of the people in higher up positions are women. But even in courts, you will find increasing number of women. Now, after your fifth year, you have gone through the application process, you have done your 5-year law course, and you have become an advocate, you have enrolled, you have written the All India Bar exam, you've become an advocate. One option is to be a practicing lawyer. The important thing about a practicing lawyer is that you must have the ability to stand in front of a court and argue. Because all the other work is equally important, which is researching and writing your briefs and writing your case notes, etc. But ultimately, you have to stand in front of a judge and argue. So if you are somebody who likes that, then litigation is the way ahead. Usually you join as a junior lawyer or you join a litigating law firm. As a junior lawyer, sometimes money is an issue. Many people, say that, oh, lawyers don't pay well, which is not the case. That yes, several lawyers don't pay well. Some lawyers pay well. But what happens is that after 5 to 6 years of hard work, once you start earning, then the sky is the limit. Our top lawyers in the country, they earn easily around anywhere between, let's say 20 to 50 lakhs in a day they can earn, because they're, charging for one case is around 5 to 6 lakhs just for appearing. It may be for 1 minute. And if you have 8 to 10, you have easily reached the, 50 lakh, mark. But it is astronomical sums. Not everybody makes that much, but lawyers usually they have a good, there's good sustenance if you make it in litigation. The second is law firm and in-house positions. Now, I've put this from a popular series, I think in Netflix, or it's very popular with our students. Does anyone know? Let's see in the chat.
Isn't it Suits?
Yes, it is Suits. That's right. So here it is too glamorized. The Suits is too glamorized, but a lot of truth is also there in Suits, so that it is a profession where you don't go too much before courts, though in Suits this person does. You mostly work with clients, design documents, structure their businesses, give them advice, and that is the kind of work you do in law firms. Law firms usually in India are looked at as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 law firms. Tier 1 law firms start with initial packages for, I think, around 15 lakh rupees per annum to 20 lakh rupees per annum. And then there are bonuses, etc. Tier 2 is a bit lower than that. You may say anywhere between 12 to 15 lakhs. Tier 3, again, well-paying jobs from around 9 to 12 lakhs. You start with such salaries. It is a very stable job. You go to office and work like everybody else. And if you are in a litigation department, then you may go to court. The other kinds of options are that you can be in the government. This is one of the most famous special public prosecutors from Mumbai in Maharashtra, who did several of the important cases like the, Mumbai blast case. And you could be someone who works as a lawyer for the government, and that way makes a very important social, contribution. It's also a very stable life. You could join the civil services because your knowledge of law gives you an upper hand in writing the civil services exams. The questions that are on the constitution about different kinds of regulations, you're able to answer well. Or you could be in the judiciary. I've put Justice Ramana's photo here. He was Chief Justice. Two have come after him, but Justice Ramana was also known very well, in the media, etc. So you could be a judge. You could write an exam and get straight into the lower judiciary, or you could practice for 10 years and then you become eligible for the High Court and then to the Supreme Court. So that is also a career option that is there in law. Now, the last point I want to discuss, and we don't have much time, so just around 16, 17 minutes. So I'm going to tell you about this, that let's say you crack the LSAT exam. How do you choose a good law school, right? And I would say that, you should have some rational criteria, just like the exam test, analytical reasoning. These are some things that you should look at. And I think the most important is your faculty. Why? Because 5 years, you'll spend most of your time in the classroom. And who are these people who are going to teach you, who are going to guide you? These are the people who write your recommendation letters, find connections to get you internships. So look for a law school where the faculty has two kinds of attributes. Number one, that the faculty should have ideally studied the 5-year undergraduate degree, not LLM PhD, the 5-year undergraduate degree in a top national law school. I'm not saying the others are not good, but this is an indicator that if you have some such people, then you know somebody who has done exactly what you have done from the best places. And these are people who would have otherwise gone to IITs and IIMs, who are now teaching in law schools. So faculty who have done the 5-year course from top national law schools, and faculty who have international exposure. Today, you may be sitting in a small town in India and you might be advising a client who will have offices in Japan, Germany, United States. So it is important for you to know, and Indians actually are not very good at dealing with international cultures. They want everything the Indian way. You have to be open-minded, and you can only do that if you have people who have international experience in your classrooms, getting people from outside to come and teach you, and then sending you perhaps abroad for LLMs by writing your recommendation letters. Faculty, most important. Second thing, curriculum pedagogy, I will just quickly say, look for a place where they are also able to bring in practitioners to come and teach you. They must have those strong connections. That's important. Look for a place which places emphasis on not on learning the law, but in an open-minded, discussion-based way of doing things, and doing a number of different things like organizing lectures with top people, who can speak to you about important things, in the law, right? You should also look for places which have selective admissions procedure. For example, relies on a good exam like the LSAT, maybe also has a personal interaction with you to understand who you are. Look for such places. One second. And look for places which have good infrastructure and have professional and international industry connections. That is very important because they help you get internships. I'm going to show you quickly few photographs of how law school life looks like in terms of these kinds of things, right? So for example, that's me. So I have put this not because of me. I'm the least important person there. The one sitting in the middle is Justice Ravindra Bhatt of the Supreme Court of India. He is a member of the 5-judge bench in the same-sex marriage case, several other important cases. So we try and expose our students to people like him. The next one is Professor Philip Dunn. He's sitting there. He is the chair professor of constitutional law at Humboldt University, Berlin. It's one of the top universities in the world, who gave the first constitutional cultures lecture. And what I want to show is that in this kind of an interaction, Justice Bhatt is speaking, Professor MP Singh is speaking. Professor MP Singh was the vice chancellor of NUJS. He also taught judges. He was the chairperson of the Delhi Judicial Academy. Our Vice Chancellor is also sitting there. But after they spoke for around 30 minutes, people started asking them questions. Here are faculty members, but here are our students who are also asking questions to a Supreme Court judge, and the others are finding it amusing. The person in the orange kurta there, Professor Ananda Burra, he himself practiced in New York for a long time, studied only in the US, is a professor with us now. And this is Ananda's student, Mehika, who is asking a question to the judge, and the judge really appreciated that and gave a long answer. So some others, like with National Law School, Bangalore, and there is on the right-hand side also Vikas Kathuria, our competition lawyer at BML Munjal. But he's the one in the middle is the director of the Max Planck Institute of Competition and Innovation in Munich in Germany. It's a top institute. And our students and the National Law School Bangalore, their students, they have had exposure to people like them because we regularly do workshops, etc. with them. So it is important that these kind of events happen. And important people come to law schools. So I'll tell you that usually when things are organized, if you take law as a career, you will be able to participate in activities where people like Justice B.N. Sri Krishna, who's talking to me here, they come and regularly interact with faculty and students. He was a judge of the Supreme Court. He gave the report on the Bombay riots case. He drafted the chairperson of the drafting committee of the data protection bill. And on the right-hand side is Sudhir Krishnaswamy, Vice Chancellor of National Law School, Bangalore. This was our event we had organized. But you should look for places where you're able to get exposure of this kind. So there's our student with Justice Sri Krishna. So I'm just showing you pictures because pictures actually give you an idea of what law school life is like. So here, this picture is interesting because on the left-hand side in the kurta is one of our professors who was also my student. The other person is the top technology lawyer in India, the two of them, and then the Vice Chancellor of National Law School and me. We organized something called the Law Conclave on Law and Technology. I am putting this picture here because do your own research. Try and see that your law school curriculum has something about technology that is teaching you some amount of coding, not a lot, but a little bit. And it is also able to give you exposure to technology because law firms, lawyers, and judges are increasingly relying on artificial intelligence, machine learning to do research for them and to do a lot of drafting, etc. for them. So I would say that, look for a place which can teach technology. So, and I've put, some important people, some are with us, but generally, what are the kind of people you should look for in your faculty? So Professor Prabhakar Singh, he has taught at, he was the Dean of B.Y. Patil in Mumbai. He had also been professor at O.P. Jindal University. Right now, he's professor with BML Munjal University. But look at the credentials. That is what I want you to look at. That somebody who has a PhD from NUS Singapore, one of the top 50 universities in the world, LLM from Barcelona, known for commercial laws, BLLB from Bhopal, right? So this is the kind of structure you must find. Or Professor Ananda Burra, who has a PhD from Michigan or JD from Michigan, worked at the International Court of Justice, Jones Day, New York. The second two are important because this shows that somebody who has international credentials. So similarly, I can show you a lot more, but all of them, so National Law School, Bangalore, SOAS, London, Tilburg, Delhi Law Faculty, London School of Economics, and there are several such people. But one person I wanted to show you is someone called Sonika Bajpai. Look for places where you have people who have practiced for more than 2 to 3 years in top law firms. Mr. Rajiv Luthra, he passed away a few days back, member of our advisory board. But Sonika actually worked with Mr. Luthra for 5 years, went to Melbourne for an LLM, then joined us. So look for this kind of faculty. And the second thing is that look for places who have good advisory council. I can only show you mine. You can look at others. Those who have influential people like Kapil Sibal, Harish Salve, judges of the Supreme Court, Zia Modi, those who are advising such universities, you know that they are in good hands because these people won't associate their name with any university straight away. Only with selective quality places, they associate their name. Similarly, if you look at, these are some important international academics, right? On the left, there is Tarunab Khaitan, who's the Vice Dean of Oxford. You have several others, here, Rohit Dey is at Yale. There is the one on the right-hand side is from Humboldt University. People from all across the world, Australia, Germany, etc. Such people should be associated with the law school you're going to because they bring in an international exposure to your education, which you cannot do away without, in today's world. So I think I'll stop there. These are some pictures of Dr. Lalit Bhasin, who's the president of the Society of Indian Law Firms. All the law firms are part of it. He's the president. He's interacting here with our students and faculty. This is because it's experiential learning. They actually tell you how things work inside law firms. And that's why you can see here how students are very interested. Otherwise, sometimes there'll be, students can easily go to their mobiles. But people like him are excellent speakers. You should have exposure to them. And I'll stop with this. You must also have not just lawyers who go to court, but those who work with companies. So Shukla Vasan is a member of our advisory council, but also the head of legal for Coke India. So Coca-Cola India, and she was there to do, placement training with our students, give a lecture to them and do other things. But exposure to people like them is really going to raise your level up to a different kind, and which will make for a great career in law. Look for places which have international collaborations, not 100 collaborations, meaningful international collaborations. Two things are important. You should be able to go to good places. You should be able to go at a serious discount. 30-40% discount is what is important, so that you can afford all of that. Second is, you should also look at international collaborations where you can do a semester exchange and get a degree in a shorter while, maybe in the US or the UK. So do your own research. I have given you only the ones which we have, but international collaborations are very important, right? So I'll stop with that because we need time for questions. So over to you, Nancy. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
Right, sir.
There are
Thank you
several
so
on
much.
the chat box. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So we have a question from Kriti. She is asking, like, if I want to prepare to be a judge or any other government exam I want to prepare, does it make any difference if I go for government or private college?
No, it won't make a difference, because ultimately, if you want to go into the judiciary, you will write a All India Judicial Services exam, and the Judicial Services exam does not discriminate from which university you are coming. What is important is that while you are at university, you should have exposure to some people who have been, let's say, judges, and who have come and spoken to you or done sessions with you about the Judicial Services exam. And the last year of your college, you should put mostly into preparing for that exam. So if you want to be a judge, you have to write an exam, or you become a practicing lawyer and become a judge. It doesn't matter whether you go to a private college or the government college. What matters is your score in the exam and the interview that you do. Anyone who prepares you well for that college is good. I'll give you an example. For example, we have just, got on board. He'll be joining us soon. Justice Mida from the Delhi High Court. He retired as a Delhi High Court judge, who is willing to tell students and spend, full days with them of what is this needed to be in the judiciary, what kind of life it is, how do you crack the exam, etc. So that kind of information a law school should be able to give you. Many law schools can, many cannot, but that is what is important, not private public.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you. So Gunjan is asking, like, what is the difference between BBA and BA LLB? What is better?
Okay, so first, the difference is that in the BBA LLB, you study business administration subjects in the first 2 years, and also in the third year, one or two subjects are there. In BA LLB, you study social science, humanities subjects. Now, what is the advantage of one or the other? Now, to become a corporate lawyer or a criminal lawyer or a constitution lawyer, it makes no difference. Why? Because ultimately the core law subjects are taught by everyone: company law, intellectual property law, taxation law, laws relating to finance, all business laws are taught to all law students. The difference is in two parts. One, if you are already a commerce student, you will just find it easier to relate to the BBA degree more than you will find to relate to a BA degree. But let me tell you that we have students who have got a commerce background and taken BA because they are interested. Let's say they're interested in political science, sociology. So it doesn't matter for your career, except in one way: if you are already focused in becoming a lawyer who works mostly with accountancy firms like PricewaterhouseCoopers, or you may, say that I only want to work with, Ernst & Young, or I want to work as a company secretary, so on and so forth. In such cases, I would say that BBA, LLB helps. Otherwise, to become corporate, commercial, criminal, constitution, any kind of lawyer, it doesn't make a difference.
Okay, sir. Okay. So there will be no such differences in the opportunities offered.
Yeah, there won't be any differences apart from the accounting firm only. Accounting firm will say, okay, somebody who has done BBA, we may look at them more because they do some accounting subjects. The BA people don't do the accounting subjects, though there is a subject we do, accounting for lawyers, which we encourage the BA subjects also, students also, to take, because looking at a balance sheet is something which anybody should know. But apart from that, there is no big difference.
Okay, okay, sir. So you really elaborated a lot about career in law as well, but some of our students are still having question like, will there be any competition in the coming years?
In the coming years, will there be more competition?
Yeah.
Uh,
For the job roles.
Yes, for the job roles. So one is that, yes, there is going to be competition for the reason that there are more people doing law. But at the same time, the law market is exploding in some sense. There are a lot of law firms coming in. There's competition, people say, from foreign law firms is going to come in. But if you look at they can only practice in a very limited way. It has not been notified only about their laws, and only on some international law they can give advice. Otherwise, they can't. But the competition among students is, of course, increasing because there are a number of law schools which have increased, right? So in that sense, there will be some competition. But job opportunities have also increased because lawyers are needed with startups, lawyers are needed with design companies. So there's an n number of opportunities. What you should be careful about is that you do a law course which prepares you for the future, which teaches you some amount of law and technology, which teaches you how to work with other disciplines while you are in law, and which gives you exposure to the best international academics. Then what happens is that your field broadens. If your field broadens, the competition gets lower. So right now, I would say that there is no such pressing need to think that what was happening in law earlier is actually going down. It's not. Insurance and other markets are only opening up. And I'll quickly add this because I had spoken about this earlier with others. Somebody had asked about acceptance of LSAT at our university, and that I will mention that yes, we accept students on the basis of the LSAT. We give them scholarships on the basis of the LSAT exam. So if you are in the top few percentile, you may get 100% scholarship. If you go in the belt below, you get a 50% scholarship, and then you get a 25% scholarship. We do that exclusively in a way that with LSAT, we are confident of the exam, and we know that the students who are coming in, they will be of a good quality if they are in these percentiles, so we can offer them scholarships. So we give offers, we give scholarships straight away on your LSAT exams.
Okay, sir. So yeah, we have a same question in the chat box, like what is the admission process at BML Munjal, and can you mention the last day to apply?
Okay, Abhishek, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate on that a bit, please?
So definitely, if we talk about the LSAT examination, the last date is 26th of May, and the examination is between June 8th and June 12th, I believe. That is when the exam is getting held. So at BML Munjal University, we accept scores of 2-3 examination, including LSAT. So we accept flat LSAT, and we have our own examination that is known as BMU SAT. So in all these 3 examination, if you score well, you get scholarship. But you need to remember one thing, that score is not the only important thing if you're looking for admission at BML Munjal University, because we also personally interact with each and every student to ensure that the students who are coming in, we are well aware of their potential, and we know that they are fit for the university, and the students are also confident about the university and the facilities that are available with us.
Okay.
So there are other questions, I think several which are coming up. Do you want me to answer, Nancy, a few of them, or? Yeah, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sure. Like Jiba is asking, is there any specific course judiciary in which can be pursued along with BA LLB, like any other judiciary courses, like some complementary courses the students do?
So see, for judiciary, actually it is, many people take coaching, right? They take some amount of coaching in order to crack the judicial services exam. There are no prerequisites of doing a course apart from a law course to be eligible to write the judicial services exam. What you need is time to prepare. So some universities actually provide guidance. So for example, we are identifying in the 3rd year who is interested in what, and then in the 3rd, 4th, 5th year, they get training in that. So those universities which have a dedicated placement training program like ours, we provide this training to those students who are interested. So there are some courses like judicial process, etc., which help you in the judicial services exam. But ultimately, it's an entrance exam, and you have to crack that. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sir, I would also like to know that, what kind of mindset one could have to pursue law, because some of the students are there which before want to go for BBA or something else, and then they want to go for LLB.
Hmm.
So is it good to suddenly change your mindset, or we have to prepare?
So two things. One is that if you if you want to do a BA or a BBA, then you get that degree anyway in the 5-year law course. But what the law course adds is that the ability to take up a profession. So if you have generally a mindset of someone who is willing to able to think about things in a logical way, whose interest is able to communicate not just orally but also in a written way well, and likes a career which is challenging, that which will bring new cases all the time or new kinds of things to work with all the time, then you should go in for the 5-year law program. But if you are someone who is not confident, who actually think that maybe I'll become an artist, maybe I'll become a designer, or maybe I become, someone who will do business. But after 3 years of that, you think that, no, I want to do law. It's not a bad idea to do the 3-year LLB. Then what happens? There's a 3-year LLB also. LSAT India also has, 3-year LLB exam. We have a 3-year LLB course. In the 3-year LLB course, you finish your undergraduation and then you move on to law. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea because then you have learned one area very well and then come to the law. You may even know about what kind of law you want to focus on for your practice. So I don't think it's a bad idea. One question has been asked here, actually, that somebody who has done science, I think Archit, and is now interested in pursuing a career in law. And I would like to know which subjects I should prefer in law school. So now, if you have done science and you have come to law, then please remember that you will find a number of friends who have done the same. A lot of people do have the physics, chemistry, maths, or biology, the different combinations. Then they end up coming and doing law, and it is not necessary that you have to choose some law subjects. The Bar Council of India actually mandates that everybody has to do these law subjects. Those you can do, but there are some elective subjects that you can choose. For example, forensic evidence, intellectual property, law and technology, biotechnology law. These are kind of subjects where a scientist, even environmental law, somebody who has a science background, we can make a special contribution. So when you enter the law school, after the first 3 years, you get elective subjects, and the elective subjects, choose the science-based ones, and especially those related to IP, environmental law, etc. You will be able to do well.
Okay, sir. So actually, Roy is asking, would someone tell me the difference between LLB and BA LLB? Sometimes students is having confusion, is it to do 5 years or the 3-year LLB?
So see, you cannot, if you have just done your class 12, then you can only take the 5-year LLB. If you have done some undergraduate degree, which is the BCom or the BA or BSc or a BBA, after that, you can do the 3-year LLB. The major differences are these. Number one, the integrated program is 5 years, the LLB program. So BA LLB, BBA LLB, 5 years. The LLB, only LLB program is 3 years. The second important difference is that in the 5-year program, you study both either BA or BBA or BCom subjects along with law subjects. It's a longer period. In the 3-year LLB program, you don't study any of those subjects. You study only law subjects. The other is internships. In the 3-year LLB also you have internships. In the 5-year LLB also you have internships. It's just that in the 5-year LLB, because of the longer duration, you will have 10 internships. In the 3-year LLB, because of the shorter duration, you'll end up having 6 internships. So those are the major differences. So if you are in class 12, you want to do law, it's the 5-year course for you. BA LLB or BB LLB is the course for you.
Okay, sir. So Parul is actually asking, do we get the exposure of moot courts in the BML Munjal?
Yes. So very good question. Actually, pay a lot of attention to moot courts. We have a moot court committee called Nirnay. Our students have recently gone and won the National Intellectual Property Law moot at DY Patil, in Pune, and they are second-year students. But we have dedicated coaching for them. We have dedicated faculty members who take care of the moot court society, teach them how to write, teach them how to argue, and our students are participating in all the important national, international moot courts, and the university funds them. So if you're representing the university, we pay everything for you to participate in moot courts. We give you free training, coaching, for how to be a good mooter. So we are one of the few universities where our first year students, even during the pandemic, went and won moots like the Bennett University moot court. Our first year students went into the quarterfinals of the KK Lothra moot court. So that way, moot courts are very important. That second thing, and I'll warn you here, that some of our exams are not written exams, they are moot courts. So some of your 15 mark, 30 mark exams will be that you have to give a written submission, then you have to come and argue before the teacher. Then you get marks. So moot courts are an integral part of life at BML Munjal University.
Okay, sir. So apart from moot course, like any other things a student should focus before choosing a law school?
Before choosing a law school, yes. So a few things which I said, non-negotiable is quality of faculty. Second is experiential learning. They should, you should see that whether there are people from courts, judges, and from law firms who come and take classes and sessions with you, because they do experiential learning. They actually bring their cases. I'll give you an example. So look for places where practitioners actually come and teach an entire course, not just one section. And I'll tell you why, because we got from Jyoti Sagar Associates, it's a tier 1 law firm. Mr. Jyoti Sagar was the founder, and then the partners of the law firm, which are senior people, they came and did a 2-credit full course for our students. No lectures. There's actual work that they have to work as if they are in a law firm, and then they have to write, make documents and present before these law firm partners, and then they get marks and they get feedback. So look for law schools which can give you that kind of exposure. And the others I have mentioned, international exposure is important, and good infrastructure is important. And of course, I'll say that if you are in a place like Delhi, like Gurgaon, the Delhi NCR, it is helpful because you have all the important courts and appellate bodies are there. So doing internships, etc., going for visits, etc., becomes much easier. So yeah, so those are things that I can say for law schools which are there in the National Capital Region. And I'll answer one question, which is here, I am a science student and interested in law. So which one would be better for me, BA LLB or BBA LLB? Now, if you're a science student, you look at your interest. If you're somebody who's interested in social issues like political science, history, or sociology, if you're interested in such things, then I would say the BA LLB is a safer bet, because the BBA LLB actually requires you to have an interest in commerce, right? If you don't, and it is technical. BBA is more technical than BA. So I would therefore say that if you are open, you have a science background and you're open and you are not particularly attracted to technical business administration subjects, then BA LLB is a safe option. This is how the large number of lawyers in India actually pass through the roles, by doing the BA LLB course. Okay. I've done journalism and now I'm thinking of pursuing law. Is it a viable option? Of course. Roy has asked me. Journalism, you'll see there are now websites you should look up, like Bar and Bench, Live Law, Law and other things. These are a species called legal journalism. If you look at the Indian Express or you look at the Hindu, you'll find that a large number of the stories are now law focused. They have dedicated legal journalists working for them, like Apurva Vishwanath is in Indian Express, there's Rajagopalan in the Hindu. Each one of them have a spot on more spots for legal journalism. And if you have done journalism, you have got excellent communication skills, and that helps you in a law course. So I would say that yes, if you're thinking of pursuing law after doing journalism, not a bad idea, because the two are very closely connected. Journalism is about everything else in the world that you report on. Law is about everything else in the world that you argue and try and get decisions on or solutions for. And both need analytical thinking, both need interacting with the world, both need excellent communication skills. So yeah, I would say go for it, Roy.
So we have a question for the campus actually. When will the classes start in BML Munjal for this year?
Yeah, Jiva is asking that. Our classes will start in the first week of August. So you'll have your orientation program in the first week of August. So from 7th August, you are in the classroom.
Okay, sir. Okay. So you really cleared a lot of doubts and elaborated a lot about the career scope and everything. Thank you so much for this. Thank you for joining us. And before we wrap up, you want to add on something?
No, first, thank you very much for inviting us. All I would say is, very practical advice that one, yes, I encourage all of you that please write exams like the LSAT. I encourage all of you to do it because it tests your potential. The second thing I will say is do your own research about law schools. Today, the country, education is like in a post-truth world. Everybody is advertising, marketing, tell you everything. Do your own research. Find out who has good faculty, who has international collaborations, who has good industry connections, who has a good campus. Go stand on the campus and get the feeling of the place and then decide on the place that is best for you. And we need a country of lawyers who are serious about the rule of law and the constitution, which can keep the country, together and take it to higher levels of progress. Our constitution has played a major role. So more and more people doing law, more and more people entering different professions with a law mindset, I think is very beneficial for the country today. And I encourage all of you to take up law as a career. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, sir. Bye.
Okay, I'll log off now.
Thank you, sir.